Hello, 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 and welcome to the What's the Deal podcast. I am your host, Noah Edwards, and this podcast is about news. News. U.S. news, world news, whatever news. So, we're going to be talking about news stories from the week. Main news story this week, as we know, is the clown. I don't even know how to describe it. We'll say the shit show that we're having in the House of Representatives with Kevin McCarthy trying to become House Speaker. It is currently 12:47 January 6th, Friday, 2023, and Kevin McCarthy is trying for the 12th time to become Speaker of the House. Currently, he is sitting at a 69 vote total. Sorry. Well, no, mature yourself. Jim Jordan has 2 votes. Representative Hearn has 2. Hakeem Jeffries continues to have all of the Democrats voting for him. So that means McCarthy most likely will probably lose this vote, but it's looking good for him because he has flipped 5 people to his cause, meaning he has 15 others. 4 of them have already voted for either Jim Jordan or Hearn. So hopefully we can end this and stop having the speaker vote. So we have so far people that have switched sides have been Dan Bishop. Biggs and Boebert, however, have not budged. Josh Brechin is a second convert. Who else do we have? Andrew Clyde, we have Representative Cloud, and Byron Donalds, who is a previous nominee himself. He votes for McCarthy, meaning he is the 5th person to flip. So overall, how will I sum up this process we've had this week? McCarthy's lost 11 consecutive votes for House Speaker. 11. This is getting close to being the record for most that we have done speaker votes. I'm pretty sure it might actually be the longest. Some of the other ones were in the 1800s, and there was like 3 candidates and something like that. But anyways, what's causing this? The main thing that's causing this is Republicans standing for beating Democrats and adjusting their morals simply around that goal. They've spent all this time trying to figure out ways to defeat the Democrats, but when it comes to actually being in power and governing, they're having trouble figuring that out. We could use the words of George Santos, who is a congressman-elect who is yet to be sworn in because there is no House Speaker to do any of that. He is also known for lying about his mother dying in 9/11, his work in financial institutions. Nothing will come out of it because Republicans have switched their stance to just wanting power and beating the Democrats. George Santos went on to say, McCarthy is going to be the next Speaker of the House. Write that down on a piece of stone and you can cash it in on January 4th. And what can we say? This man only lies and makes up things. Most importantly, the Republicans are reaping what they've sown. They are reaping what they sown years ago when they allowed Donald Trump to take control of the Republican Party. They adopted his ideals for his presidency, and now, with the midterm loss being not what they expected, they want to switch gears. And they already have the Freedom Caucus established, meaning it's going to be very hard to switch those gears. They've reached a point where they must decide to cater either towards Trumpism in the House or conservatism in the way that it has been done for years. McCarthy is also reaping what he's sown because he let Trumpism and the cult of Trump take over the House of Representatives. And now they're coming. They are coming for him. Like leopards eating his face, coming for him. Like it's happening. Molly Jong-Fast wrote an article in Vanity Fair saying that the McCarthy vote is peak Trumpism. She also said in her article, quote, now finally Republicans have a razor-thin margin, but their party is too dysfunctional to govern. McCarthy is finding it impossible to stop a brakeless freight train driven by morons, making a mess of the 118th Congress before members are even sworn in. We can assume that brakeless freight train is the Freedom Caucus, and we can assume the morons are Matt Gaetz, probably Matt Gaetz again, and then Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert. So, even with Trump's endorsement, McCarthy is failing. Trump said, vote for McCarthy, like, let's get this over with. And that was back at, like, the 6th vote. And since then, they have not voted for McCarthy still. We have some people currently flipping there's now 4 votes for Jim Jordan, 2 for Representative Hearn. So it's still looking very unlikely that Kevin McCarthy will win this vote, and will probably go to a 13th vote. But back to the Freedom Caucus. The Freedom Caucus is starting to take on a life of its own and garner power within the House. We could say it's like a parasite. It latched on to the Republican establishment that was already there, but instead blew up their ideals to be more fringe and more far right. They have 20 members. I would say, 19 members, 20 in total are either very closely connected to where you can consider them a member. With another vote looking like it's not going Kevin McCarthy's way, the next steps for McCarthy are very unclear. This is uncharted territory. He doesn't know what else he could do. He has given concessions to all of the Freedom Caucus demands. And the GOP leadership is now considering trying to adjourn the chamber potentially through the weekend to give McCarthy more time to hold meetings and solidify a deal that they hope will win him this gavel. But to adjourn, they need help from the Democrats. And the Democrats are not looking to help at all unless there is a consensus candidate proposed that one or a few moderate Democrats could vote for. And that would also require near unity from the Republicans, which we can see it's not going to happen. Even on Wednesday, they narrowly won an unruly vote to adjourn for the night. Complicating the plan for Republicans are concerns that a mix of health and family commitments could peel off these McCarthy supporters. These people have lives. And even we saw Representative Hearn had to leave for a medical emergency. But throughout the votes, we've seen multiple people get votes besides Kevin McCarthy. We have Representative Hearn of Oklahoma, Jim Jordan. We know Jim Jordan. He's a vocal person. There's even been a vote for Donald Trump, as done by Matt Gaetz, of course. And Byron Donalds of Florida, a newly elected representative. I'm going to have to play that clip of Matt Gaetz nominating Trump. You have to listen to this.
Gaetz.
Donald John
Trump.
Comment of the year so far goes to this comment on Reddit by user 976chip in response to that video in particular. Matt Gaetz is what would happen if Geppetto carved Pinocchio out of a frat paddle. And I thought that was so spot on because this man is like the definition of like creepy frat bro. And I mean, he also had trafficking charges against him. So hopefully this will age well. What I don't get is why he says Donald Trump's name like that. He gets up, fixes his jacket. You can see him puff his chest out, and he's like, Donald John Trump. And the only immediate reaction we get is Marjorie Taylor Greene looking like Mickey Rourke, fucking smiling at him like, hey, you voted for Trump. That's funny. But the thing is, when the congresswoman repeated the name that he voted for, laughter erupted in the chamber. You could hear all of the Democrats laughing. I'm sure every single Democrat found that so funny. Even the geriatric ones who have trouble blinking.
The Honorable Donald J. Trump of the state of Florida has received 1.
But this infighting is simply because of one person. We see infighting amongst them because of Donald Trump, because of the ideals that he has established in this Republican Party. While this is all going on, Republicans are still trying to figure out if there's any glimmer of hope in this situation. But all these glimmers are possibly just a mirage for the Freedom Caucus to gain power. McCarthy met nearly every one of their demands, but that might not even be enough to get them across the line. They're still refusing to vote for him, despite him saying he will give you all of these demands. So they're in a fucky situation, to put it lightly. They really don't know what to do. I mean, Democrats are just sitting back and watching, laughing. I mean, Representative Ted Lieu brought in popcorn the first vote. Like, oh, it's just such a shit show. And since Kevin McCarthy has such a slim majority, he can't give up too much to the Freedom Caucus. Because if he gives up too much to the Freedom Caucus, then he's going to lose that side that's with him, that slim majority that he has. So he needs to be very precise with what he's giving out to both sides. He's having to negotiate with two parties. He's having to convince those people that are voting for him to keep voting for him, even though we're going into a 12th vote. He also needs to convince some of the Freedom Caucus to break away and vote for him. Yet tensions are remaining high amongst House Republicans. During one meeting between McCarthy and Main Street Republicans Representative Dusty Johnson, Dusty Johnson told members that if anyone was wavering, they should get out. According to a member in the room who spoke candidly on condition of anonymity, I think I said that correct, Johnson's move was meant to ensure those who stayed were unified in backing McCarthy. No one left the room. McCarthy's pending offer to conservatives includes items many in his conferences once viewed as red lines. It would, according to two Republicans familiar with the proposal, include a vote on term limits for members, more seats for Freedom Caucus members on the powerful House Rules Committee. Out of all the committees, the House Rules Committee, which is very, very powerful. And they would also allow any House member to initiate a snap vote to force the speaker out. The last item in particular, I feel, is more like a watch your back, McCarthy. Even if you get the speaker role, like we could at any time snap vote to get you out. So the gavel's not fully safe in your hands, but we'll let you have it for a little bit. The chair of the Freedom Caucus, Representative Scott Perry, told reporters on Thursday, quote, "We're not even really talking about a deal." McCarthy's camp is hoping that if they can winnow down his opposition from 20 to a half dozen or so, the pressure on the remaining holdouts will be so great that enough will cave. But I don't think that's the case. The Freedom Caucus is showing that they are willing to stand their ground. They are willing to stand their ground to get what they want. And also, they're willing to stand their ground to get the most out of what they want. Meaning that McCarthy has given them and met all of their demands, but they want more. There's something more that they want. Matt Gaetz said today in his long-winded speech as he voted for Jim Jordan that McCarthy bends the knee essentially to lobbyists and betrays the American people. So, as a big voice in the Freedom Caucus, you can assume he speaks for almost all of them when he says that. And on top of Matt Gaetz being a hard no, we have four other hard no's that we can say for sure. And that is Lauren Boebert of Colorado, Andy Biggs of Arizona, Bob Good of Virginia, and Matt Rosendale of Montana. McCarthy can only lose 4 GOP votes and win the speakership, assuming that everyone is in full attendance and everyone is voting. Boebert said as she nominated Representative Hearn from Oklahoma, quote, "We need to get to a point where we evaluate what life after Kevin McCarthy looks like." Matt Gaetz told a press scrum at the end of Thursday, "Either Kevin McCarthy withdraws from the race or we construct a straitjacket that he is unable to evade." So we can see him and Boebert are unified in this message of essentially, fuck you, Kevin McCarthy, die. So Democrats are not going to help unless there is a consensus candidate. They're not going to send any of their votes across the aisle unless it is someone who is moderate that would pass some Democratic policies. But as you go through the list, there's not many of those in the House of Representatives. But what do you expect? Democrats aren't going to be willing to help Republicans so easily. The House of Representatives has been an absolute mudslinging shitfest for the past, I don't know. It's been a long time. The House has just become the shitfest of just throwing things around, saying these things. There's a lot of bad blood, and they are not going to help you. They're going to keep voting for Hakeem Jeffries. Do I blame them? No, because he would do better than Kevin McCarthy and would be a good speaker, but they ain't going to help you. Man, you're on your own to solve this, buddy. You won this majority. You got to figure out how to govern. It is your government now. You figure it out. Before they began the eighth vote, Democratic Minority Whip Catherine Clark of Massachusetts repeated the vote count of 212 for Democrat Hakeem Jeffries 7 times. Here's that clip.
212, 212, 212, 212, 212, 212, and today, 212. House... 212 House Democrats stand united behind our leader because Hakeem Jeffries stands united for the American people.
Here we can see Catherine Clark taunting Republicans on their inability to elect a leader. Republicans even had plenty of time since November to get these ducks in a row. They've had so much time since the elections, and they learned that they had a majority to get everyone on board with the speaker. Representative Mary Peltola of Alaska, Democrat, a former state legislator, said she was open to a House with shared powers between the parties. Quote, if there were a coalition that were workable, but she acknowledged if you're putting a coalition together with a field of 40 people, that's much more manageable than 435. But a coalition doesn't exist. Republicans have since cut ties to all of the Democrats. They sink their agendas, they refuse to cooperate and compromise on legislation. We saw that out all throughout the first 2 years of Biden's administration, and also just anytime they have the House, the House or the Senate. It reminds me of the time Mitch McConnell said, oh, we are here simply to just block Obama's agenda, just to vote no on everything. And that's the Republican agenda still to this day. They vote no on everything. These people get elected to vote no on every single piece of legislation, and they still get reelected. Jim Jordan, that man has voted no way too many times, and that man's been reelected. What has he done? He's probably one of those representatives who were like, yeah, I got you the Build Back Better. But no, you fucking didn't. You voted no. You work in the chamber, you voted no. You can't claim credit for that. So there's no coalition, there's no friendship, there's no nothing. Not even an acquaintanceship within this House. Representative Jim McGovern of Massachusetts, a Democrat as well, said, quote, this is a fight between them right now, between their right wing and their extreme right wing. They got to figure this out. And he's totally right. This is a problem with the Republicans. No one can figure it out except themselves. They need to figure out what their identity is. Is their identity the Freedom Caucus? Or is their identity Kevin McCarthy, who's, we would say, like 2 steps down from the Freedom Caucus, maybe? You know, he tries to keep himself distanced from Trump, but then does things that align with Trump's views. But I would prefer Kevin McCarthy over the Freedom Caucus people because they're fucking radical as shit. But who knows? We don't know what's going to happen because it is up to them behind closed doors meetings to get some compromise so we can have a House Speaker and actually have a functioning House that can do anything. Can't even pace it. Come next week, if there's still no Speaker, they won't be able to pay their staffers. A bunch of congressmen and congresswomen don't know their budget, so they don't know how much they can spend on housing to live in D.C. And like, that shit ain't cheap. In fact, we can see the vast majority of House Democrats, they're eyeing the infighting across the aisle like high quality entertainment. Like, this is some good shit to watch. Representative Jamal Bowman, a Democrat from New York, said, quote, I don't see us helping them. I think they need to help themselves, and I think they need to do their damn jobs. I mean, what the hell? You were sent here to govern. What is this? Exactly. You have been looking to get power in the House of Representatives for years now. And now that you finally have it, you don't know what the fuck to do? Like, really? You've had all this time to plot and scheme to get your majority in the House, and you don't know what to do. You can't vote on one speaker. You can't figure that simple thing out. It's crazy. Another update, a freshman Republican and McCarthy holdout, Anna Paulina Luna, switches her vote to McCarthy. Quote, pending negotiations in good faith. Raucous applause and a standing ovation was given to her. McCarthy gave he flashes a huge grin to reporters as he walks back onto the House floor, saying he's feeling very good. And this is reporting from the New York Times. So the longer this speaker fight drags on, the more of an impact it will have on the House operations, since the chamber can't do anything until it elects a speaker. If rules aren't adopted by January 13th, for example, as I said, committee staff won't be paid. Representative Emanuel Cleaver, Democrat from Missouri, said, quote, "We are right now a one-winged bird. We can't fly, can't do anything, and it's making us vulnerable." He also went on to say he's worried that U.S. enemies could be plotting how to capitalize on the chaos, particularly with escalating tensions abroad. If you're Poland, you're scared to death. All right, we're going to end this episode with the result of the 12th vote that Kevin McCarthy has lost. But this is the first time that he has received more votes for Speaker than Hakeem Jeffries, the Democratic nominee. Excuse me. However, he does not have the required majority. He has managed, though, to swing 14 detractors over to his side. So now he just needs to get a few more to his side. Maybe we'll finally have a speaker. Who knows? But that's it for this episode of What's the Deal with Noah Edwards, me, your host. I have all of references and citations in the bio of this episode if you want to read more about the topic. I have articles from Politico, the New York Times, and Molly Jong's Fast article in Vanity Fair. An episode should be uploaded next week. Maybe I'll be finally done talking about the speaker vote and focusing on more important things going on in the world. But who knows? Who knows? These Republicans who knows? But yep, that's it for this episode, and I'll see you guys next week.